I spent the last 2 weeks running around California. It was an odd visit because there was so much ground to cover, both in terms of landscape and history. A third of the time I was there, I visited people and places, all beloved, that and who had been formative in my becoming the person I am today. I walked outdoor labyrinths, actually very close to Ann and Buzz's house, and I waved in their direction, but no one came running out. I don't know why that was. I was even at a Starbucks. They were not there. But I reminisced about wonderful pagan celebrations. It's very easy to be a pagan in the Bay Area's good weather when you can see the sun move across that wide bowl of sky. That beloved landscape with its very different seasons. And sadly, at this point, no rain. I encountered wedding customers. It was amazing. I was sitting at my friend's jewelry store, and somebody walked in, and I was talking to my friend, the jeweler, and someone said, "Isn't that Ann Evans?" I had my back to her, and I said, yes. She recognized my voice because I'd read her ceremony to her so many times. But I spent hours walking and talking and eating with a woman who knows me well enough to have said, "You know what you ought to do," and sent me off to create my ritual business. And who even today, although we talk infrequently, still knows me well enough to consider pointed questions for you all to evaluate Sarah's and my work. So that will be coming soon to a forum near you. The rest of the visit was spent building family with Steve's daughters and their families and getting to know some of Steve's friends. It was extraordinary and wonderful. I found it so interesting, however, that once I spoke about my life here, one of my friends looked at me and said, "Wow, you're never coming back to live here, are you?" And I said, "No, I'm not. As much as I love it there, this is home." In view of Passover, this had me thinking a lot about Moses' wandering in the desert. I'm clear, and I've always been clear, that I had to leave the East Coast and my family to stretch to my potential. When I left home, I could never have envisioned what I might get up to. In the sweet comfort of my family's love, I couldn't explore the divine feminine and my leadership in non-Christian faith without my parents seeing my study as reproach. While it seems silly to characterize that mostly Eden as a wilderness, it was that for me. I found plenty of oases in that desert, places where I had the most wonderful experiences and deep encouragement. But I had to bring that back to a format that I understood to make it work. City slicker that I am also a small-town girl. I know how to get things done here. I can walk into a bank, talk to the newspaper editor, get on a radio show, and call a car dealership looking for money and support for a good cause. It's much more difficult there. Everything I learned about living large as Anne in California can be put to work here, making a difference. Throughout my time there, I probably have said this before, but then so much of what I've said you've heard. But I kept on my bookshelves a book by Nell Morton entitled The Journey is Home. I confess I never read it, but I lived it. It was my truth. I never paid much attention to the fact that when I left the Bay Area, I gave it, along with many of my theology books, to the Center for Women and Religion. Home was the sailor, home from the sea. I suspect that most of us have places where we have wandered in the wilderness. I'm not sure that most of us, or maybe I was the only one not smart enough to get this, that's happened before. But I'm not sure that most of us understand that the wandering can give us a lot if we choose to accept the lessons. And so I ask you, do you know where it was that you wandered? Are you wandering still? Should you be? Or should you stop? I'm not sure that most of us really understand it doesn't mean a lot if when we reach the promised land we don't notice, because if we haven't noticed, we've not really arrived. And when I say most of us, again, I hope I'm not the only one. Unless we do things differently once we've arrived, unless we really make it home, the exile continues. I think about the things we've chosen as our first two charities and about Love Flows. I think about what many of us do for a living. It strikes me that we encourage young folk to set out on their exile, on their odyssey, in search of themselves. Some of these youngsters had never dreamed that they might dream. And yet, jungle teens and girls on the run are offering kids options to consider walking away from the bondage of their lives into the desert so that they might discover who they are. And Lois wrote about the great possibility for Girls on the Run. There's been a matching grant done for 5 scholarships. So if you now would be a good time to throw some money in the basket, and I'm sure it can still be counted. With Love Flows, we're looking to feed kids so that they can get to the point to think about leaving what they've known and beginning to understand what might be possible for them. In the Developing a Sense of Place course that I took, we talked about the landscape. We learned about the watershed and the soil type. This is not my passion, but this is my place. You know me, however, there's nothing I love like a good metaphor. So I started thinking about, instead of just deep ecology, deep social ecology. When I live here, when I become native to this place where I live, I have to start paying attention. I will never speak for the sugar maples or the river otters, however much I love them. But I will speak because that's what I'm privileged to look at and see for the hungry and the threatened. As I do that, I become someone who understands that the promised land is not simply a gift from God or from life, but a responsibility. All that's promised is the opportunity to, in the archaic sense of the word, husband that land. What is even richer is that I tend to this promise in community. Our job is to be one another's chosen community in this promised land, not to see this spot as a new Eden, as one we build, transform, and tend, is to miss the greatest gift of life. And if this is only a launching pad for us, may it be one of hope. We must find our roles in this garden, and we are all needed, from storytellers to seed keepers to beekeepers to teachers to students. Whatever your greatest gifts, because without your acceptance, your corner of the garden does not blossom, and neither do you. If your place is here and now, then we have the most amazing hope. If we see ourselves not in the wilderness, but at the cornerstone, we begin to define how life is lived in this valley. We get to embrace our work, big W, and the work, big W, of this community. We get to know that the food we share here is not only a sweet feast for us, but fuel for our determination to feed the valley and to teach compassion and justice. I almost said fight, but we will not fight. We will live into generosity together and stop to celebrate and refuel and then go back to work. We will teach our children what it means to live in sacred and promised land, so that when they go into exile, they know what it will feel like when they've come to their own new promised land. In Christian communion, which many churches celebrate on Maundy Thursdays, most denominations say some form of the gifts of God for the people of God, and concludes with the important response, therefore let us keep the feast. We are the people of this valley. This land is my land. These people, all these people, are my people. They are yours, should you choose them. Therefore, let us say that this struggle and these gifts of the earth are for the people of the earth and the people of this valley. Therefore, let us make and let us keep the feast. Welcome home to the welcome table in the promised land. Your exile is over. New life is waiting to be fashioned. Let us tell the stories, and then let us enjoy the feast. Amen, and blessed be.